April 29th virtual school committee meeting. Thank you to DCAT for recording this. Is there anyone else who is recording this? Okay, so we will first start with, is there any items of interest to the superintendent or the school committee? Yes, Eric.
So I recognize this is your last meeting and Alice's last meeting with the election coming up. And as one member, I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with you both. And you've certainly made a difference in your terms. And I really appreciate all the hard work, and it's been a pleasure working with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your guidance, especially the last year.
You've done great. You didn't need me.
Thank you.
I
And
would
go
agree
ahead,
with
Jeff.
that. I was just going to say, Eric, I agree exactly what you said. It's been a pleasure partnering with you both over the past couple of years. So thank you for your work with us, and you'll be missed.
Mm-hmm. And Robin, can I say something too?
Yes,
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, I want to, I was reflecting all morning on the last 3 years, and, my personal motivation to run was never ego driven or agenda driven. And I really just did it for my kids. So I am amazed by what has been accomplished over the last 3 years. So Robin, thank you for being part of that journey with me. We met when we started to run our campaigns. We didn't always agree. And I think that's what is so great about the school committee and where we are right now. It's like, we don't always have to agree on everything, but we can respect each other. And Robin, thank you for that, because I think that was a really good lesson for all of us. But we have so much positive momentum in this district, from Dan coming on and just bringing a much needed fresh perspective and energy to, Mr. Federico, what he's done at the high school, to Mr. Colin Tony and everything he's done at the middle school, and our new principals at Thorpe and Great Oak, and our new director of student services taking over in a few months. There's just such positive momentum. And I feel like we're in such a better place than we were 3 years ago, and I'm not taking all the credit for it, nor will Robin, but I know it was a team effort to get to where we are. So, I think, as the new members come on, I really want to encourage the community to go and ask questions, stay involved, engage with the candidates before the polls. I know it's not a competitive campaign, but I can't stress how important this position is to our town. And, I personally never took this role for granted. So, I hope that the 2 new members don't come in with personal agendas or have an ego, and they really allow themselves to learn and engage with the whole community, because, I think it's their responsibility. They know that this is not one size fits all. Respect community members. Even if you don't agree with them, listen to them, learn from them. I encourage caregivers and families to stay active in their students' journey, meet teachers, engage with the administration, ask questions, share what's working well, give feedback on what's needed. Feel comfortable opting in, opting out if it doesn't feel right, but just remain active and leaned in to your students' journey. And I think finally my request to the whole community in Danvers is support your Danvers students, celebrate their accomplishments. We can all progress forward if we stand up for our students and let them know that we support them. We have really made what I think is tremendous improvements over the last few years. Still work to be done, but really making sure that everyone in town supports the schools every chance that they can get.
Thank you. I remember those Saturday mornings.
Oh, yeah.
Saturday seeing you.
Elsie brings it up every last couple of weeks when she's seen everyone. She's like, remember when we did that?
I also thank you, Alice. I have, similar sentiments. I just wrote something that I wanted to read so I didn't forget anything. So, as this is my last Danvers School Committee meeting, I would really like to take this time to thank the entire Danvers community that supported me during my campaign and my tenure here. for me, it's really been an honor to serve my hometown, and I'm really proud of the work that has been accomplished in these 3 short years. Some of the most notable achievements that we as a committee did achieve are really advocating for the implementation of structured literacy that supports the science of reading, always advocating for the students of Danvers, and recruiting a new superintendent who I think will really continue to push us in a positive way. I would also like to thank my former school committee members, Jeff Kay and Arthur Skarmas, for their support and collaboration as I navigated this new role, and also as my current school committee members as I continue to navigate. Before I leave, I'd also like to just add a comment regarding, I know it's unfortunate that we live in a very politically charged world right now. So just to remember that sometimes politics do make their way into the schools. And I'd like to remind and caution the committee that politics do not belong in the classroom, and that one's personal agenda should not infiltrate the school committee. To the current members and new members that will be elected soon, please continue to always advocate for students, and I look forward to our paths crossing again in the future. And again, thank you for your support in the last 3 years. So, thank you. All right. So now to the agenda. So Pam, we're going to start with you, Ms. Crum, for your budget update.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So, I mean, other than another month's worth of salary and other miscellaneous charges reflected, the changes that you will maybe note on the budget report compared to last month is that a couple of the deficits have grown a little bit. I can explain both situations. One is that in the case of the tuitions, special ed tuitions, that it is now reflecting the $80,000 that the consortium was going to be seeking to improve to complete their HVAC project that Dan has been speaking about, superintendent's been speaking about for some months now. So that is now reflected. Those bills did come in from them. And then the other piece is that the homeless and foster transportation line is continuing to grow, but a lot of that is going to be offset with the emergency assistance funding that is coming from the state. So I'll be able to shift that over. It was just that funding wasn't there at the very outset of the year. So it'll be part of closer to the year-end closeout that those deficits go. I also wanted to share with the school committee that you might recall that last year we had applied with the state for extraordinary relief because we had seen such a sharp increase in the expenses that we were facing. And we qualified for extraordinary relief last year, which was wonderful. This year, the state had a dual program where they had one process for applying, but sort of 2 tracks for qualifying. This year, Danvers did not qualify for extraordinary relief. We did qualify for something that they're calling reserve relief, which means that we met certain benchmarks for that unfortunate reality of having our expenses grow to an unfortunate level. But while extraordinary relief is sort of like free support in the sense that it's money that we get immediately and we spend immediately, and that's sort of the end of the story. The reserve relief is structured differently, so we will receive money from the state to help support closing out the books this year, but it will be deducted from the circuit breaker revenue that will be coming in next year. So it sort of is a loan on that circuit breaker funding that will, that we rely on from one year to the next. It's not really new money that's coming in. It's just coming into us sooner in case we needed it to help cover our expenses this year and close the books, which I don't anticipate is going to be necessary because of the fiscally conservative way that we have operated, where we carry revenue over from one year to spend the next year. So we do have that reserve money, and we shouldn't need to spend this reserve relief money in order to pay our bills. But I just wanted to explain the distinction in case Danvers is listed on a series of communities that is receiving this reserve relief money. It is not bad news, it's good news, but it's not quite as good news as the extraordinary relief support was last year for us.
Yeah, Eric, yep.
Question, Pam, I know that you've talked about the special education overrun compared to budget, and you note in your report that we'll be able to handle that internally. My question in terms of the homeless busing, the cost, you said you expect, I think it was what, $313,000 roughly over. Do you know what percentage we expect? Is that 150 roughly coming back?
I would say that I would say 100% of that overage is going to be able to be covered.
Oh, good.
We have some reimbursement money that has come in from the state in a previous cycle that we didn't need to expend last year. So we have that on hold and can use it this year. And then this new funding from the state for the emergency assistance. A lot of the charges that you see on that line are transporting students back to districts from whence they came. And so we'll be able to apply it directly to that extra funding.
Good, okay.
And then whatever overage appears on our end of year report this year will be reflected in new reimbursement from the state in the future as well.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Pam, I noticed, and forgive me if this is normally what it is, it's a little under $250,000 for substitutes this year. Is that just daily subs, or is that like long-term subs too?
It's
Okay, that makes me
long-term
feel
subs
better.
as well.
Okay.
They all get sort of charged to the same object code, so they show up in the same place on this budget report, but some of them are the daily subs that we contract from ESS. Some of them are internal, like long-term subs that we hire, or even coverages that teachers do for one another, or aides do for teachers sometimes, or substitute nurses, like all kinds of substitutes feed into that line.
Okay.
So it is a big expense. We've had a lot of leaves this year, so need for a lot of substitutes.
That makes me feel better. I was like, if this is just daily subs, I was gonna have a heart attack, but
No,
I understand it's all pooled together. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other monthly budget questions? All right, well, thank you, Pam. It's been wonderful working with you. Good luck with negotiations and the rest of the
Thank you.
closing out of the year.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Pam.
You likewise.
Bye. All right, so we will start then with going back to information from the superintendent, so the policy subcommittee review.
Yes, there are two policies to review, and they're both pretty straightforward. The first policy is that security cameras in schools. There's a common policy that schools have that have security cameras that basically just lays out authorization of the cameras, who has control of the cameras, how we share access. I did put that in the file. So what I would like to bring that to the school committee in May for first reading and any discussion and comment. We did consult with our attorney and he sent us the stock policy. And I think it makes a lot of sense because a couple of things, number one, we control the security cameras and there's a lot of confidentiality that falls in and responsibility with that. So it's important that that's stated in our policy. And number two, access to the cameras. So for example, if we are challenged and somebody would like to see the footage, there are limitations that are there based on protection of students and staff. So it spells it out very clearly in the policy. So again, it's straightforward. And I'll bring this, it is in the folder, but we'll discuss for first reading in May and a second reading in June. Any questions on the security camera policy?
Oh, and just for the rest of the committee, this did get brought up today at the safety committee about access, who should and shouldn't have access. So it's been on the radar for a little bit.
And it's very important. Thank you for bringing that up, Robin, because we've consulted with our chief, our attorney. Again, it's not that we want to limit access. It's just that really it's an important piece of making sure that those that have access to it are using it responsibly and we have control of that piece. So again, I feel very confident with that. The second policy is just an update to our bullying prevention and intervention plan. So we're due for this. We are required by statute to update, every 2 years. So we're working with our attorney on our current plan, and it's in a draft phase. But the piece of importance for the committee is to know that we need to bring this up for first reading in May, and there has to be a period of public comment in terms of this updating the bullying prevention plan. So it's very clearly laid out. So I'll make that public in probably one of my updates prior to the upcoming meeting. So if anybody in public comment, if they have any comments regarding the updated bullying prevention intervention plan, it's at that time. That feedback should be taken. And that's not limited to just our employees, but to anybody in the community. So that's a stock response that I will share with the committee. And again, we'll, in advance of the May meeting, make that public. So if anybody comes to the meeting, they can certainly comment on that and any feedback with our bullying and intervention plan. And then with that, any discussion in May will lead to a second reading in June. So then that way it can be implemented for the fall. Then it can be updated. We would update in all of our handbooks, as well as updating into the webpage, et cetera. So pretty cut and dry. Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
The next one is the superintendent evaluation, which is really slated to take place in May because that comes into a play. Obviously, the school committee will change over. So Robin and I have talked about this, as well as I've talked with Eric a little bit too. So in terms of how that can work, it can work with the 3 members that are continuing on. I will submit to them prior to May meeting my end of year report, which is an update on the 3 goals, as well as the 4 standards of instructional leadership, management, family, and community, as well as professional culture. So I have that pretty much organized and ready to go to send to them, as well as the links to the evidence, such as meeting agendas, any updates with data and things that support the standards as well as the goals. So that information will come to the school committee primarily for 3 remaining members in May, and also send out the rubric as well. So whether it's in May that is formalized at the evaluation, or if it's in the June meeting. But I just want to give an update in terms of that for timing.
Just a quick question on that, if I may. The timing of it seems like it's not going to be ideal. We have 2 school committee members that are going to be kind of exiting, and
Well,
2 new that'll be coming on, right?
Right, and that's why just having the ability of the 3 remaining members to do the evaluation
Okay, all right.
for this cycle. Then obviously next year's cycle will be all those that are still in the committee.
Yeah, in
Okay.
most similar situations, a new member coming on, and I think I actually did it when I first came on, because I came on right when there was an evaluation cycle. And my response was that I would abstain because I really have not had the chance to work with the superintendent. So I presume the new members will do the same. But the 3 of us can handle it, I think. And the closer it actually gets for Dan to complete, or at least almost complete a year, I think the better it is and the more fair it is for him. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we want to consider, I don't know if it's able to be moved in the future for future evaluations, but if we could bump it up to maybe a month earlier, just so we have those remaining people that are on, just in case there's turnover.
Yeah.
I would make a
Awesome.
recommendation that we have another retreat, bring in the mask, the Association for School Committees to run that. And a discussion point can be the superintendent evaluation, because some districts do have a timeline that actually goes into the beginning of the next school year.
Mhm.
They can provide some guidance in terms of that, where it doesn't have to necessarily be at this time, where if there's an election that gets in the way. And the other
Yeah.
piece too is, and again, it's just, I want to be able to present my information as fair and best as possible and have the time to do that. And some of these goals are winding down, so I want to be able to complete them. So that's why some districts have gone into September or October of the next year. It just depends. But I think that's a great topic for the next retreat we have.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you.
Eric, I didn't know if this is possible. Probably isn't, because we won't be on the committee, but is there a way for us to give any actual not just verbal feedback to Dan, but as part of the evaluation, or is it kind of no, because you're not on the committee?
Well, you would not be able to participate by, say, completing the rubric that the 3 of us will,
Mm-hmm.
having it included in the official evaluation documents, but if you wanted to give Dan feedback in writing, I'm sure you could send him
Yeah, okay.
a letter, and it won't become part of the official evaluation, but I'm sure your feedback, analysis feedback
Yeah,
would be
I'd be happy
valuable
to do
to
that.
Dan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And it-
Because Josh, that was one of the concerns I had said, like, oh no, these two new people, and that's why Eric realized like it could just be the,
Yeah.
the remaining ones.
Yeah.
Or-
Makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
And
Any other-
then the entry findings and strategic plan actually tie into well. So in May, I will share the entry findings, which will come as a result of the entry plan from the meetings, listening sessions, document analysis. There's quite a bit to report on. As you can imagine, there's been a lot in our district going on, a lot of great things and a lot of areas that we have for growth. So I'll present all that in May, the entry report. And then that will dovetail very well into the strategic plan, which the strategic plan itself, should start to launch right after the entry plan is presented. So we're looking at a May, then really turning into a June launch of the strategic plan. And the model we're looking at for strategic plan, and I can present this in more detail, but it's really a model that I know has been used in other districts. And it's a model that is important because I think looking at the strategic plan, we want to make it so that we have a variety of stakeholders that have input
Mhm.
to the strategic plan. We need to basically boil it down. And I think the biggest part of any type of strategic plan is how can we make it actionable? How can we make it something that's not going to sit on the desk and looked at once a year? That's not what we want. We really want it so that when we get moving, that again, all the stakeholders are involved, but really it's just working on our vision as well as our mission, reviewing that, but getting the whole community to collaborate to help set the vision. And then really utilizing the school committee, district leaders, and educators then to take that vision and really pare down to the strategy to pursue. And then looking at the educators and staff to design and implement measurable tactics. And I think the important piece of that is involving all stakeholders. So the community sets the vision, which I think is critical. Many different stakeholders, because really it's like, what is the vision for our schools, not just for the next year, but the next 3 years, and even moving it down to 5 years. And then from that point, how can we make it operational again with our school committee leaders and educators identifying these strategies to really pinpoint, let's take these strategies and let's drill down deeper. And then how can we get these strategy implemented that are measurable? Because I think that's the big thing when you look at any type of strategic plan, what are the metrics we measure success? So really it's a 3-step process. Step 1 will be a series of focus groups. And again, starting at the end of May and through June is a good time just to really establish those. And the work can go through the summer and into the fall with gathering this information, because that's really important, is to define that vision and really pinpoint that vision of a learner, or really the vision of a graduate. What do we see our students when they leave our schools? What should they be able to do? And then step 2 is from that visioning sessions, all those sessions, the stakeholders, we come together and identify 3 to 5 key strategies to guide the district and provide that direction. And then step 3 is really taking the vision and strategies that set the direction for school improvement plan and educator goals. And I think that piece is critical. We'll talk more about that as we get into May and get ready to launch. But I like it because it really gives the varied levels where it can start to plug into and make it actionable, not only with our improvement plans at the district and building level, but getting into educator goals as well. And it's really a collaborative process. So I'm looking forward to launching this.
Mhm.
Again, that will take place. We'll talk more about it in detail in May, but really get the work going in June after the entry plan results are released. And that's it.
Quick question,
Abe.
Dan. Do you plan on using, in the past, I've seen it done with third-party consultants come in and kind of lead the process, or is your plan just to, use the administrative team to do that?
Well, that's a great question. I just like anything else, I'm looking to have some help from the outside, but not a consulting firm or I'm looking for educators that have done this, and I have an educator that has done this in a district and has had success with this.
Okay,
And we sat down, Mary and myself sat down, and actually I may have him come to our next meeting in May to talk more in detail, because I really want to put a plan into place that, I think the worst thing is to create a strategic plan that really doesn't gain traction. And when we ask questions of how successful has this been, it really needs to dive into all levels, from school committee, the district level, and into the schools and into the educators, because that's what it goes through. And then looking at what are the metrics are we using to measure the success, but really keeping it simple to 3 to 5 objectives. But we need the community's vision. So I really like this approach. And certainly having somebody that has implemented this in their own district with success, I think is important. And that's, you can always go out and there's a lot of outside consultants that do great things, but I want this to be relatable. And that's why we'll be working intimately with the launch of this. So then the footprint is, although we're receiving some assistance and some guidance, it's going to be our footprint on this, our stamp of approval as a district and as a community.
sounds good.
How are you envisioning that you'll get the community members to participate? Because I think that's really important, because as good as the output, you have to have good input and diverse input too. I want to make sure that you see the families or the community members and ensure that there is representation from, different views. I think is the most important thing as well, right? Like, we don't all have to agree all the time, but make sure that we have those conversations. So how do you think you'll go about recruiting those community members to join?
Well, I think number one is really setting the net out wide. And as you put together any plan to execute, what are the stakeholders, and really identifying those stakeholders and looking at who are within those that we can reach out that have the influence to come together. And a lot of it does connect with the entry plan, because we spoke with a lot of stakeholders in that area that we would reach out. And this is a great opportunity for the community to really work and develop the vision for our schools moving forward. And that's what it is. It's a great opportunity. And really that is a key point, but that part of it takes a lot of work. That takes us getting out and making sure that we have those conversations. It can't just be emails. Nothing wrong with emails, but it really needs to be the phone conversations, the in-person meetings, and really spreading the web to get people involved.
Great, good, thank you.
A lot of
I'm
recruiting.
excited for it. No, it will probably take a lot of work to recruit the right folks to input with this. So, but I'm excited for this, because I think it's, we need to look at the student journey, right, from pre-K all the way to high school, keep them in our district, keep them a Falcon for as long as possible. And, I think having a strategic plan that is created from the community is a wonderful first step at doing that.
And that's the superintendent updates. And I kept it short and simple to the point. Is it all right, Chair, if I give a quick shout out?
Yeah, sure.
I did have the awesome opportunity to attend Performing Arts weekend on Saturday. And I still get chills from the jazz band, the chorus, the a cappella groups, and the concert band. It was one of the best concerts I've ever heard. It was fantastic. And it was great because there was a tremendous amount of collaboration, not only from our educators that lead these musicians. And this was actually part 2 of a 2-day program. I just went to the musical part, but there was actually performances the night before, and then they had a big dinner. But what impressed me as well is the community coming together and the parents. They had sponsors, and it's just made you feel so proud of our schools, and knowing that the stage was full of kids performing at a high level. They did a number at the John Williams and all of his great movies, and they had on projector E.T., Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and I didn't count all the kids, but the stage was full. And that it's not only just our musicians that are performing then, but that's really, I think, credit to all of our educators at the elementary as they work their way up. So I just had to say that because it was a really good feel good moment for us as a district for performing arts, because there's so many great things that are happening in our district. So I just want to give that shout out as well. And I also do want to thank Robin and Alice for your service to school committee, and thank you. I've been here a short time in my first year, but appreciate your efforts as well. So I didn't get a chance to say it early, so I'll stop talking now.
Thank you, Dan.
You. So we have unfinished business, which I know last time we talked about the pre-K fee proposal, and we decided to just kind of table it, discuss it again, and talk about possibly like a tiered system as far as fee increases. So I don't know, Dan, if you have additional information to share or.
I do, and I put the presentation in the folder, and it came out to two options of a tiered approach. So definitely looking for feedback, and time is of the essence as we're planning for next year. But the good news is that the marketing has started for our pre-K programming, and Bethany Stangus, who was on with us and did the presentation earlier of our pre-K audit. She has been advertising, and we have it on Facebook, and as well as she's reaching out to other entities, which is a great thing. I agree with what was said earlier. It's a hidden gem. So can I share the screen, and I'll put up the two options. Can you see that okay? Okay.
Yes.
So we looked at, excuse me. There we go. There were two options that we looked at, again, for the tier approach, and certainly open to any suggestions. I know we'll have discussion on this, but one way was to take a look at a tiered approach, a phased and increase over 2 years. Initially, we talked about an $8.50, going to that rate next year, but we looked at a way, so if we could look at an increase of $7.50 next year, and then the following year after that, look at an increase to $8.50 to come to a level that we feel is competitive with the local schools, but also understanding giving families time to adjust, and some families that are already in to be able to phase out. So if you look at the numbers, because we do have 3 variations of this program, a 4-day, half day, a 5-day, half day, and then a 5-day full. And you can see the increase from a $7.50, what that does in terms of the annual fee, and then you can see the percentage increase. It looks like it's a higher percent just based on where it was pretty low at the 4-day week at the half day, but the tuition was higher at the 5-day because it's more, it's a little bit longer, it's an extra day as well as that piece. So you can see the percent increases if you do that. On the right side, if we went to that 8.5, again, the top number, this might be confusing. I apologize. I did this before vacation, so I don't know if I was thinking clearly. But, if you went out with just a straight increase to 8.5, it's substantial. But if you do it off a tiered, it's definitely an increase on the second year, but it's a much lower. So the top number would be if we just jumped it at 8.50. The second number below that is if we then tier it up, go up $1 in that second year. So that's one option that we were looking at. The second option, can move to that. Sorry. The second option would be to just go up with families that are already enrolled, increase their tuition to $7.50, and then any new families go to the rate of $8.50. So that was the second option that we looked at. It's a tiered approach and taking a look at that. So option one is to just go up everybody to $7.50 next year, then the second year to $8.50. Option two is to those already enrolled, their tuition would increase to $7.50. And then anybody new would go to $8.50. And we did some comparables too, just to give an idea of what it would look like. I'm sorry, just trying to having trouble seeing a little bit here. So just trying to take against the dollars and pluses. So if we look at our annual program and where we're going versus the increase to $7.50, the increase to $8.50, these numbers look kind of confusing. But at the end of the day, we'll still would be below a lot of the other districts. For example, Linfield, Marblehead, Middleton, we'd be below. North Reading, if we would the $7.50. Peabody, we'd be above them, and we're still above Beverly a little bit, but we're and Wakefield would be higher as well. So I don't know if the comps make sense, but you can see that even with these increases, we'll still be lower than many of the other districts. And right, going into the full day as well. So the full day, you know, we would definitely be under Hamilton Wenham, under Marblehead, under North Reading, a little bit, $1.25 over Peabody, but we'd be under Wakefield, and Beverly's the one that we would definitely be more than Beverly, but their rate is pretty low. So I just threw this out here to the committee. Just to look any feedback on this, but we looked at those two areas of tiered, where tier option one, I can go back to that, is the phased in over 2 years. And option two is $750 for those families enrolled and $850 for those new families.
Do you have a recommendation, Dr. Bauer?
I'm more inclined to go with the $750 to $850 because it's tiered over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
So
recommendation.
option one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. And I wanted to put this in here because we're looking to put wording in this with any family facing financial hardship. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we will have an opportunity for eligibility paperwork for free,
Right.
those on free and reduced. So we can work on that piece. And we actually did a case of that this year. We don't have anything in writing, but we looked at what we've done for other fees within the district that if a family is financial hardship.
Hey, Dan, question for you. What's the net difference between the 2 years if you have that?
The net difference between,
The increase, like meaning, like, is there a marked difference between option one and option two?
you mean in terms of the money we would bring in?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, obviously when you look at it, I want to say it's like 15, it's considerable. But you know, the thing is that would offset that, I think, is, you know, we've under marketed the program as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have room to bring them in. So it's about 15,000 approximately.
But you're saying the net new might be offsetting.
That's right.
Yep.
And the other thing too, and I'm glad you brought that up, Gabe, the other piece too that's important is that you know, we're making some major changes with the programming too. Everybody will be at Riverside next year, as opposed to being at Thorpe and Riverside. We're adding some additions and we're improving the program as well. So I think having it tiered where it's a little bit lower in year one, then go to year two, because from a financial standpoint, where we're at within the budget, we're okay with that piece. Obviously, I think it's been undervalued, and our audit shows that, because it is a great service. And I think the one thing that's important is that the new monies would allow us to do the professional development. And we can certainly, obviously the next year with the larger increase over time, will provide more opportunities for that.
And I asked the question because I'm concerned about your ability to deliver the program you want if you're not doing the one that helps you to fund all the changes you want to make. So can you do everything you want with option two? Are there some sacrifices, seeing that you're going with one?
So if we went with option two as opposed to option one,
Yeah.
I believe we can. I believe we can. Because, you know, ultimately we will have the increase, although not as much as if we went to the 850. But I think that still leaves some room, because the one thing that is where we have the gains, Gabe, it's just important to note, is on the half days. We don't really have as much space on the full day programming. So that wouldn't change that much. It's really the half day programming. So
And that $750 is an increase from it's $6 now? Is that what it was? Right.
$6, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
think that's a really a great question as we looked at this, because we know there is a lot we need to do in terms of even going further. But I think as we're transitioning into a transition year and getting everybody under the same roof and being able, we really need the professional development to be part of that, and certainly expending some capacity. I think we would be okay with option one, and I think that might help families too. I think what I heard loud and clear in the last meeting was that, you know, making a big jump, although we're still in a good place market wise with that 850, you know, that is still a pretty big jump for some families too. And I think we wanted to look at that part as well. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, if I might on this one, just to add a comment, I think that option one does make a lot more sense, and I think that was some of the feedback that we all gave was it just takes the sting out of that big increase, even though it is undervalued, under market. Just for some families to go up $2.50 an hour, it's really going to add up. So I think this allows them to budget from year one to then year two, and then if they want to make changes, or if they don't have the means, or if they have to apply for financial aid, it gives them that kind of a heads up where they do have that flexibility to do it if they can't afford that 750. So I would be in favor of option one on this one. It also seems easier to track too, right? To put people in and just kind of level set everybody up $1 or whatever the increases are.
I like option one as well, Madam Chair. It, as Josh points out, easier, I think, to manage from our standpoint. And, going to 750 in the first year, look at the comparables. It puts us probably in the, like, on the high side, but certainly not out of the realm, right? If you look at that, looking at the hourly rate, assume nothing goes up, we're reasonably high up. But over 2 years, the others may change as well. So I like going to 750 and then 850. I like doing it for everybody. And I think it will make it easier for our existing parents to handle the change.
I agree. I also like that we did add the financial aid statement, because I know it wasn't like I know we did help someone this year, but it was never actually really like written in, and I think that was super important to do. So any other questions or comments?
Do we need to take a vote on this, Madam
We
Chair?
do, because we did like the first reading last week, and then we tabled it. So
All right.
So do we move to approve the option one phased increase of pre-K tuition over 2 years?
Second,
okay, so Janet, can you do a roll call, please?
Robin Doherty,
Yes.
Alice Campbell,
Yes.
Eric Crane,
yes.
Josh Kepnes,
Yes.
Gabe Lopes.
Gabe's having some technical issues, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Can you type in the chat? Oh.
Yeah.
Type in the chat.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we got you.
All right, I'm using two devices to
I
try to
see
make
that.
this work. All right, sorry about that, guys. I lost audio, I lost video, and here I am.
So we did a roll call vote to see, to approve the option one. We just had to, Jenna individually had to call us and say yes, because we were virtual.
Okay,
So Gabe Lopes,
here.
yeah,
Okay.
He's a yes. He's a
Yeah.
yes.
Fucking. Hello? Hello?
We can
Hello?
hear you.
All right, I'm just gonna put that phone down right there.
There you go.
All right.
All right. So with that, we'll start with, we'll begin the order of business.
Okay. So the secretary moves to approve and release the minutes from the April 8th, 2024 regular meeting.
Second,
Okay, Janet, roll call.
Robin Doherty,
Yes.
Alice Campbell,
Yes.
Eric Crane,
yes.
Josh Kepnes,
Yes.
Gabe Lopes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
You go.
We need now a motion, a first and a second for the consent agenda also.
Move the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Janet, could you take a roll call, please?
Robin Doherty,
Yes.
Alice Campbell,
Yes.
Eric Crane,
Yes.
Josh Kepnes,
Yes.
Gabe Lopes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So as far as just like communications, do we have any more updated information from NEC?
The last update was the approved budget, which I believe I sent along. If not, I will send that to you. And our next board meeting is, I believe, on the 15th of May.
Okay. Eric, I know we had legislation last meeting. I didn't know if there were any additional updates since then.
Please.
I don't have any directly, but I think Dan, you might have had a phone call with Sally and or Joan in between. I know you have a call pretty much regularly. So has anything developed on those?
No, but we did see where the the House has passed the budget, so it's moving along. I did attend a meeting of the Ways and Means Chair for the Senate.
Mhm.
Host of Joan Lovely spoke and was very informative. Myself, the
Man,
Beverly Superintendent, the PBD Superintendent, the Salem Superintendent, along with other town officials attended. So it was really great to hear insight into the budget. Certainly lots of attention to education and talking about, obviously with the revenues being down, but also the offset is all the money that has come through from federal, funding over the last couple of years. And certainly, the government's no different than the schools where ESSER's running out and there's other
Yep.
entitlements running out as well. But certainly the commitment to education was made clear. The free and reduced program, and that will still continue, as we know, fully funding circuit breaker funding, which is huge. And then we asked the question about, the continued funding for emergency assistance, which we all spoke, the super from Peabody, myself and Salem spoke how critical that is. And also the advocacy of Sally and Joan on that issue. So they know that it's important. And hopefully we'll hear more on that very soon, but knowing that's critical funding for us. So really, Sally's been a great advocate for us as well as Joan on those fronts.
Yeah, it's a challenging, a more challenging budget year, I think, than people expected. Revenues are down, and then the pressure to make sure we can shelter people, and that's actually up. So, the lines are moving in directions we'd rather not see, but the economy can turn too, and revenues could be up. So you just don't know yet, but it looks like a challenging budget year.
Thank you. Subcommittee updates, liaison updates. So nothing from curriculum equity. We're doing that in May. We talked about the policy. Safety, we did talk about the cameras, part of the policy. And then, Dan, I don't know if there's anything like additional information you want to share about that.
On the safety, yeah,
Yeah.
we actually had a really good presentation. Jim Sullivan, our Director of Technology, talked about cybersecurity, and actually they're going through some drills and some work, and an audit as well. And we held up pretty well. Schools are really, so much data is involved in school student records and staff records, but he said we held up well. There were a few recommendations that were made. And he's going to implement a few of those. Number one, really, is training of the staff, and as well as some dual entering in and logging in. I can't speak right now. Thank you for helping me. Yeah.
Authenticity.
And talked about the remainder of the year and drills, and then we're putting out a survey to the safety committee to look at for next year's programming, but also InformaCast, which I think we all will, and certainly can make a presentation at the end of the year, but where all staff and families would get quick information if something happens. Essex Tech has it, other school districts have it. We are in the process. We put a PO in, and now it's just an implementation. So that way, if there was anything that happened in any one of the schools, quick notification from the phone that would go out much quickly. And I think that is something woefully needed, as well as staff having the opportunity, if something happens, they're able to, from their device or their classroom phone, can certainly enter in there's a problem as well. So we're pretty far along with that, and I can bring an update to school committee probably in June. We're going through right now, we're acquiring it and just getting the implementation going in. It's a number of different steps. So feel really good about that.
Dan, has our district ever explored products like Yonder? Those cell phone bags that students use?
We really haven't talked about that too much, but I know that's of interest to some in the community.
I'm just curious, just even in a future school committee meeting, it'd be interesting to have a point of view on it, given it is coming up, I think, in different places, and it'd be good for us to know. We looked into it, this is why we don't, want to implement it, or yes, we do, but we need the budget, whatever it is, but it would be good to be part of that conversation.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
Okay, and then I don't know, anything from Deep?
We have the Breakfast of Champions, right, Mary, coming up?
Yep. Yeah, the Breakfast of Champions coming up on, oh gosh, I can't even remember. Is it May 31st? It's the end of May. And so we're honoring a few people, like an educator, friends of Danvers, but that's to be announced at that breakfast, so I can't say.
Is it a Friday? The Friday's the 31st.
No, it's the 30th.
Okay.
It's at 8 a.m. It's at the in Danvers High Atrium and Cafeteria.
Thank you. Danvers Cares.
The next meeting is next Monday. And the purple night is coming up too, right, Mary?
Yeah, May 15th.
Okay.
I got it
Yeah.
right here. May 15th at there's a 6 p.m. gathering, then 6:30 walk, and then 7 p.m. speakers at the Rotary Pavilion at Danvers at the library.
Thank you. CPAC, Josh.
No updates currently right now.
Okay.
Can I jump in on an update if it's okay with
Yes.
CPAC? We just actually had CPAC came in and met this afternoon with Christina Ryan, our new director. And we're looking to do a forum with Christina toward the end of May, just to introduce her to the community. And so that's going well, and certainly it was a very good meeting with CPAC today and the new director.
Awesome.
Great.
And Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee.
I attended the last meeting, which was by what's the word I'm looking for? It was virtual, general discussion of their plans going forward, talked about lighting the night purple. And two of our students, Ava Newton and Isaiah Young, I think they might be former students at this point, but they attended and talked about the program, I believe it's called Gen Next. And basically it's like a leadership development program, and for exposure to really how students are living their life in a totally different part of the country. So they went to Georgia, and they both described it as a life-changing experience.
Awesome. So that is all we have on the agenda. It's pretty short tonight. We are going to, in a moment, go into an executive session for the purpose of collective bargaining update with the intention of not returning to the regular meeting. But before we do that, we obviously need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A motion to adjourn the regular session to proceed to an executive session to discuss collective bargaining with our bargaining units, not to return to regular session.
Second.
Janet?
Robin Doherty,
Yes.
Alice Campbell,
Yes.
Eric Crane,
Yes.
Josh Kepnes,
Yes,
Gabe Lopes.
he chatted in. Yes.
All right, so Danvers, the next person school committee meeting will be May 13th. Correct? Yes, Monday, May 13th.
Yes.
So, good night, Danvers. Thank you very much.